Second verse, same as the first. Yeah, despite almost 15 years between the first one and this one, the CGI, which was the impressive part about the first one, the CGI hasn't really improved that much, even in 15 years. And in some ways, I'd argue that it actually kind of looks worse. Like, for the most part, okay, it looks fine, but there's parts when the Na'vi are staring directly at you, like way up to the camera like this, and it's really unsettling. And the movie itself is one of the laziest sequels I've ever seen. And the majority of that is because the rules of the first film are completely ignored. The first film made it very clear that the human host has to be connected to the Avatar, and we don't see any of the human hosts in this one. Right? I thought the first movie said that, after a certain amount of time, they have to be pulled away so they can replenish, but nope, we're ignoring that now. They're just fully Na'vi now. And the film also sets up plot lines that are just kind of brushed off. Like, for example, the villain from the first movie who died, he comes back as a Na'vi. And the explanation for this is basically the same thing as Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker, where they say, well, somehow he returned. And as one-dimensional as the villain was in the first movie, somehow in this one, he's even more boring. In the first one, he wanted to exploit their land, so he at least had some motivation. But in this one, it's just, I want revenge on Jake! And he's not even that complex or interesting. So there's also this plot line about Sigourney Weaver's Avatar having a kid. And again, they just brush this off. They say, well, we don't know how this happened. It just kind of did. It's this big mystery for her daughter about who her father is. And okay, that could be kind of an interesting thing to explore in the character, but they never explain it. They just drop this plot line. James Cameron wrote all these plot lines. It was like, I'll explain this later. Oh, I'm on a deadline. Okay, well, I guess I'll wait until the third movie. So, yeah, and the message of this film was also more or less the same as the first one, but instead of be nice to the trees, it's be nice to the whales. So what are we going to do for the third one? Be nice to the insects? How many times are we going to repeat the same stupid message? Really, the only mildly interesting character in this movie, apart from Sigourney Weaver's character, and even then, like I said, they dropped that plotline. Apart from her, the only interesting character was Spider, because he was kind of a fun character, but even then, he does some terrible things, and he doesn't really even get any consequences for it at the end of the film. This film just seems like it was a filler episode to set up for a third one. It felt like just nothing but setup for a third film. And as much as I don't like the first one, at least the first third of the first film had an interesting setup, right? People can connect to these alien replicas called avatars telepathically, and that's how they're going to communicate with the aliens. Okay, interesting setup. Kind of creative, pretty original. I hadn't really been done before. This one is basically the first movie again, but less interesting. Everything about it feels pretty much the same, and yet somehow it's less impressive. Even the action scenes, I didn't really care for. And the reason for that is I didn't care about the characters involved, because I felt nothing for them. I felt pretty much nothing while watching this movie. And there's a line in this film that's repeated quite a few times, and it ties into the title. The characters say, the way of water has no end. The way of water has no end. The way of water has no end. And that pretty much sums up this movie, because it felt like it had no end. It was overly long. It was dull. It was milquetoast. It was lazy. Didn't really care for it that much. I found it bland. For me, it gets a C+, a 6 out of 10, and a 2.5 out of 5 stars.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.